Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. Oh boy, we had a Iowa lose to Iowa State today, and that was a rough one. You might be watching this the next day because I'm recording it kind of late. But yeah, this was the first time that Iowa has won, or Iowa State has won in Ames, Iowa. Of course, that's at Iowa State since 2011. Iowa has done a really good job of owning this rivalry. They owned it from like 2015 to basically 2021. And then Iowa State has now won three of the last four. They lost last time in Ames, and they obviously win this one. And it's always been super close. I mean, the under, that's what they talked about a lot in this one. And with the way Mark Gronowski played in the first game for Iowa, there was a lot of concern. I came onto this show and said, I think he's at least going to run. I think they're at least going to be able to move the ball with him running. I'm not super confident he's going to come out and be the best thing ever, but I think he's going to at least be able to run. He's at least going to be able to throw the ball around well enough to be able to score enough points to win this one for Iowa. What I did not anticipate, which I should have anticipated, was the wide receivers screwing him and basically letting him down. So I do want to say that this game by the numbers is not as bad as it looks for Mark Gronowski, but there were some comments made by Kirk Ferentz after the game that I think were troublesome to me, and I think really highlights a lot of the thoughts that people have when they talk about should Iowa move on from Kirk Ferentz and stuff. Now, if you're an Iowa fan, you're most likely like, well, not all of you, but a lot of Iowa fans are like, no, we're never getting rid of Kirk. Like, he's here until he wants to retire. And I get that. I understand that. And I respect that. Okay. But at the same time, it also looks like this is a program in Iowa that is never going to be a playoff team, at least in the 12-team playoff, maybe 16-team playoff. They get there. But they're probably never going to be a playoff team unless either one, Kirk Ferentz leaves and they hire somebody better, which that's no guarantee, or two, he changes some things. And I believe this is what Kirk Ferentz needs to change. Now, if you're an Iowa fan and you've been like, JR, we've been on this for a while, we know this, that's fine. But from a more conference, a little bit national perspective, I think this is something that needs to be pointed out. Does not mean that Kirk Ferentz is a bad coach. Does not mean I want Kirk Ferentz fired. It's just something that he said that I want to point out. So Kirk Ferentz, he was asked about Mark Gronowski, how he played. Let me bring up the stats for you real fast on Gronowski, just so that way, you know, you have him. So Mark Gronowski in the first game against Albany, an FCS team, he went 8 for 15, 44 yards, one touchdown, sacked once, 39 yards, and one rushing touchdown. Okay. Against Iowa State, he went 13 of 24, so they had him throw the ball more, but only 83 yards, no touchdowns, one interception, sacked three times, two times in that final drive, I believe, and then 16 carries for 37 yards and one touchdown. So they did run him more, obviously with the sacks. The yardage is a little bit less there, but overall, just wasn't enough. And here's Kirk Ferentz being asked by a media member about assessing Mark Gronowski, his game, what he thinks. I might pause this in between, and so that way I can give comments. But here's what he thinks.
What did you think of Mark's play today?
Yeah, certainly improved, and I thought he did a good job leading us, and some tough circumstances out there, but I thought he really did a good job. The biggest thing is he took a step forward, looked a lot more comfortable as a quarterback today. Last week,
that comment right there, I think, is where all of this stems from. All right, I have no problem with the leadership comment. I hardly know anything about what's going on the sidelines. Nobody really does, right? If you're a fan, if you're not on the sidelines, you have no idea. So I can't critique the leadership comment at all. He may have been doing a great job with leading those guys. I bet he was. I mean, he's a fifth-year senior, very successful. Walter Payton, wore all that stuff. So he probably is a great leader. But the comment that he says here, where he says, the biggest thing is he took a step forward, looked a lot more comfortable as a quarterback today. Now, I hate this answer. we'll listen to more of it, but I just got to let you know, I hate this answer. Because at the end of the day, if it's just about improving every single week, then there is no standard for your school. There is no standard for what you're playing to because of the previous players before you and what they accomplished. The standard is whatever you do your very first time out there. That can't be the standard of any program. Every program has to have a standard of what they live up to and what they go for. The standard at Iowa is to beat Iowa State. That's been the standard, but it's not been the standard the last few years, right? Iowa State has won 3 of the last 4. It sucks. I know Iowa fans don't like me saying that, but it's true. And in this moment, you got Kirk Ferentz saying, well, as long as he improves, he's better than he was last week. And I get that to a certain extent. There's some like good motivational, like self-talk in there, but that doesn't work in football for me. In football, you got to have a standard that you work toward, and especially in these rivalry games. Nobody cares that Mark Gronowski was better than he was last time. He just lost one of the biggest rivalries it's probably a top 10 rivalry, right, in college football. If not top 10, at least top 20 in college football. I mean, this game is played every single year. It's an out-of-conference game. They keep it every single. How many games that were in conference that are rivalry games just go away after they get out of conference? At least out of conference, it's one of the biggest rivalries in all college football. So anyway, let's finish it here.
Week he was really present, so good for him to get that experience and really feel good about him moving forward.
Kirk, you guys.
So I get it. The really feel good about him moving forward. I get that. All right. I would probably have something, encouraging to say at the end as well. But like this is not a true freshman. This is not a true sophomore, right? This is a 5th-year senior you brought in. You paid, the rumor is, over $2 million for him to come in, and he's not nearly as good as you thought he would be. In fact, he is about the same passing stats-wise, obviously not rushing, but passing stats-wise, through 2 games, he's about the same as Deacon Hill was in his first 2 games starting at Iowa. And Deacon Hill started against 2 Big Ten teams, Purdue and at Wisconsin. And this was when Purdue was better, okay? This was, before, no, it wasn't when they were better, because Wyatt Walters was that year as his first year. They were still better that year than they were in 2024. Anyway, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's not like they played Albany, Deacon Hill's first game. And his numbers are very, very similar to what Mark Gronowski has. Through 2 games, you have Mark Gronowski, his passing stats, only his passing stats in his first 2 starts against Albany and at Iowa State. 21 of 39, 127 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick. All right? So rushing, you got 2 rushing touchdowns on the ground, but we're just talking passing stats-wise, okay? Deacon Hill's passing stats in his first 2 starts at Iowa against Purdue and at Wisconsin, 12 of 34. I'll give you that. A lot less completion percentage there. But 147 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. One thing about college football and about elevating the program is to build off of what came before you. The standard for Iowa football right now at the quarterback position is Deacon Hill. That is the standard right now, at least according to Kirk Ferentz's answers here. Because for him, it's all about just improving. And his first start wasn't all that much different than Deacon Hill's. Deacon Hill came in mid-season because the starting quarterback got injured, and then he had to play the rest of the year, and it was a struggle at the quarterback position all year long. Now, they still won a lot of games that season, right? They still won a lot of games that season, right? Like, they won 10 games that year. Deacon Hill went, what was it? 7, not 7, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. He went 7-2 as a start, 7-3 because of the bowl game. He went 7-3 as a starter. So by no means is the season over for Iowa. They're not going 5-7 or anything like that. Kirk Ferentz has dealt with this before. They have a better offensive coordinator in Tim Lester than what they had back then. So I'm not saying the sky is falling or anything, but I do think we need to address the fact that I don't think Iowa is ever going to prevail to that level of a playoff team unless they move on from Kirk Ferentz, unfortunately. Maybe this year they could have got in, but I don't think so. You had one ranked win on the schedule, and you got blown out by Penn State 30, or one ranked game on the schedule, and you got blown out by Penn State 31-0. You played Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, and you lost 26-0. Even with 10 wins in this season in a 12-team playoff structure, I don't think you get in. You had wins at Wisconsin, at Iowa State, at Nebraska. There was not nearly enough offensive firepower there. That was with Brian Ferentz and everything else as well. So that's my biggest thing here. It's from somebody who comes at it from the perspective of the Big Ten and wanting the Big Ten to elevate. The ceiling right now for Iowa is you will never be anything more than a tier 2 program at the absolute best in the Big Ten under Kirk Ferentz. If this kind of stays, right? If he changes it up and he starts coming out and saying this isn't the standard, we got to win these games. These are rivalry games. We pride ourselves. This is a program that's about winning rivalry games. This is a program that cares about going. Maybe we don't get to the playoffs all the time, right? But we're going to go out there. We're going to give incredible effort. We're going to play the best of our abilities against rivalry opponents because that is one of the things that we value as winning the most here. Instead, we got, well, he improved. So what are the values? What's most important there at Iowa? Is it just about improving yourself every single time? That is great for those players, don't get me wrong. But I think we live in a world today in college football where you can both have things be great for your players and really invest in young men and turn them into incredible human beings, which Kirk Ferentz has done time and time again at Iowa. We should not minimize that. He's been a fantastic head coach and done a lot for young men. But at the same time, if you don't hold your standard or your program to a standard of we need to be contending for the playoffs, we need to get to that point, then you're never going to get there. And if your standard is just, well, improve what you did last week, you're never going to get there. And that's what makes it so frustrating, I think, for a lot of Big Ten fans who look at this Iowa program and say, yes, you are an automatic 7, 8, 9 wins every single season, right? They're not going to lose less than 7 games this season, I don't think. But I don't think they're going to win any more than 9 either. And that's the hardest part with this Iowa team. Because we honestly do want to see this team win 9, 10 games and make the playoffs. At least Big Ten fans do. Probably not Nebraska fans or Wisconsin fans. And I get that. You should always, root against your rivals before you ever root for your conference. All right. I hold to that all the time. But that's the hardest thing about it. Is right now, based off this answer and everything else I heard in the press conference too, all right, I'm not going to play the entire press conference for you, but based off this answer and everything else I heard, it's that the standard here is just improve and get better, which is a great message, but I don't think it elevates your team. I don't think it makes you a playoff team. And I think, unfortunately, from Iowa fans, they are going to always be caught in the structure of we are almost good enough to make the playoffs, almost good enough to get there. But to me, this is the main thing that needs to change. There needs to be a standard, needs to be upheld to it, and players need to work for it. And coaches do too, right? Coaches do too. Was there a mention of, we could have put them in better situations, this, that, and the other. He talked about the coaches as well, but you get what I'm saying. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think this is the issue with Iowa football as well? Do you think they're going to go 5-7 this year? I don't, but if you do, I'd love to know your thoughts. It's just such a conundrum. You have these longtime head coaches who have done so much for the school, so much for the players, and you have former players who love them dearly, as they should. But then you also get into these situations where fans are frustrated because it feels like you've hit a ceiling and you just can't get any higher than what you've hit. And I do feel for the Iowa fans in that scenario. And I'm probably a little emotional off this Iowa State loss as well. Not nearly as emotional as you Iowa fans, but you get what I'm saying. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Have a good one.